Evening, podcast listeners, YouTube viewers, and Facebook followers. I'm Chris from the Common Grounds Podcast and Roasters Marketplace. Tonight, we're going to be interviewing my buddy Dave from Muddy Joe's Coffee Company. He's up in Pennsylvania tonight. He's ready to talk to us about what he's got going on at Muddy Joe's Coffee. Amazing small batch coffee roaster. Does some really cool things with barrel aged coffee. So you're not going to want to miss this episode. Thanks for tuning in. And let's go ahead and start the show with a little Dom Coors. All right. Good evening, David. How are you doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing wonderful, Chris. How about yourself?
Good. You know, it's been a crazy night. We were trying to fix some technical issues here before we went on live, and now I'm having more technical issues in the background. So we're hoping that this show goes okay tonight. So first off, David, thanks for coming on the show tonight. And I want to tell everybody about Muddy Joe's Coffee and about what you've got going on there in Pennsylvania. So go ahead and start the show. Give us a little bit of background and how you got into roasting coffee.
Well, man, my story is a little different than a lot of the other roasters out there. I think, I'm like you. I was in the military. I got in the military, and then I went into the bar and restaurant industry. I was there for about 25 years. And then one morning I kind of woke up. I was like, man, it's time for a change. I'm getting old, and staying up till 3, 4 in the morning is just not cutting it anymore. So about 7 years ago, I started playing with coffee with my dad. And, I was like, man, I think, we can do this, and started really kind of focusing on single origins and then trying to do some, you know, blends and everything else. And then I just woke up. I was like, you know what? You've got so much bar experience. Why can't we do a barrel aged coffee? And so I started playing with the concept, the idea, getting barrels and doing different things. And, the next thing happened, we got Muddy Joe's Coffee going. It's been a fun experience. And a lot of it has to do kind of nod to my dad. I started this kind of thing with him. And about a year and a half ago, he was diagnosed with multiple myeloma leukemia. And so because of that, I really jumped on the let's go ahead and let's do this for real. It was fun playing at home with it and just trying it. And now it's like, let's really focus and make this work. And of course, picking one of the worst times to do it during COVID. So, it's been a fun challenge, and I've learned a lot and made some great people, and been very fortunate to be on Roasters Marketplace with you guys. I really appreciate that.
We really appreciate you jumping on board back in, I think it was just after the first of the year you jumped on around March or something.
Yeah, March. Yeah, I think when I jumped on, you only had like 30 people, and now you're up to 150.
No, not that much. We've got about 40 roasters on there now. It's growing though. When you started roasting coffee, what did you start roasting coffee on?
Man, I kind of started. I first wanted to see if it was something I really wanted to do, because to give you a little more kind of emphasis on what coffee means to me. A lot of people like you drink a ton of coffee. I see you always got your big thermos, a tumbler, something. You always got Chemex going, always something brewing. I'm one of those people, I didn't start drinking coffee until the last few years. Actually, I did not grow up loving coffee. The only thing I loved about coffee was the smell of it. And to me, that smell of coffee brings me back to my childhood. I grew up in San Francisco, California. And in our neighborhood, there was a small little, kind of like a bodega, a little market. And there's a little Italian family there that every Sunday morning he'd roast fresh coffee for a couple days, for what he needed for the next couple days. And he'd roast a couple times a week. And so I just always remember that, running out and playing with my friends and smelling that roasted coffee. And so to this day, now every time I smell it, it just takes me back. It's more of a nuance, just the memories and everything else. And that's what I really love about coffee, and I'm a huge cold brew fan. I love some cold brews. But to answer your question, got a little sidetracked. The first time I ever did a roast, I actually did it in the cast iron pans. I started just kind of playing with it. I was like, let's play and try. And, I was doing it and I was getting good results. But, it's a cast iron skillet. You can only do so much. So then I got a small drum roaster, more like one of those uh, hot air, not kind of a popper, but, I forget the brand. But there's several out there where it's more like a hot air, just blowing it through there, heating up that way. And, you know, I was having good success with it, good luck. And me and my dad were playing with it a lot. And, it was something that I just really enjoyed doing, and the flavors we were getting, it was a very big learning curve. I was pulling books, I was watching videos, but it was kind of hard. 7 years ago, it wasn't the or at least to my perspective, the roasters, the small batch and the specialty roasters weren't quite as big yet. And now, to me, it's almost like the bar or the coffee, or I'm sorry, craft beer. Craft beer was huge, and now I see coffee kind of making that trend,
Mhm.
where it's, you're starting to see all these little roasters popping up, and it's like, oh man. And I think it's totally groovy, having all these different roasters, because each one brings something different. If it's a different bean they're getting, that they have a great source. You got legacy farms who actually grow their own beans, and they got some great products too. They had was it one of their I have a couple of their coffees I've been playing with and looking at doing some cocktail barrel aged stuff with.
Oh,
And
really?
then, oh yeah, I've got several different. We'll talk about that here shortly. But
Yeah.
it's a lot of these roasters you have. Each one brings something unique to the table, and I think that's what I really love about Roasters Marketplace. Is you guys do a great job of getting a nice group of people that each one of us does something a little different, to where you're not going to find everything the exact same. And that's really groovy, because coffee to me is a lot like wine. Wine's different, and each person that drinks wine or coffee might taste something different because of their taste buds, if you're a smoker or anything like that. So to me, that is definitely there again, my bar experience. It's everybody sees something a little different, tastes different.
And the nice part about it too, going back to what you were saying about the relating it to craft beer, um, there's way more coffee drinkers than there
Oh yeah,
there are beer drinkers, and so converting somebody into a specialty coffee drinker isn't as hard as taking somebody who's a diehard
Bud Light
uh,
fan or
Bud Light fan, right, and saying, "Here, try
IPA.
this IPA that's going to taste like you bit into a cedar tree." And usually, as long as you don't go too crazy on the coffee, you can be like, okay, here, look, this is a Colombian, it's a medium roast. It's nothing. It's just a coffee. It's a coffee for coffee people. Try that. Oh, and by the way, it was roasted 72 hours ago. And you're going to just knock somebody's socks off, because
Exactly.
it's going to be such a drastic change than what they're used to. And that's one thing I love about uh, coffee. And I'm going to do a plug this morning. I was doing an interview for the Coffee Explorer podcast by CL World Coffee, and Jen Stone. She had me on her show this morning, and we were talking about just the flavor notes. And we talked about flavor notes for almost 40 minutes. Not flavor notes, but the bag and the different information that goes into the bag, and labels and such. But we really honed in on those flavor notes that you were talking about. That it's like a fine wine. It's like a fine Scotch or whiskey. Just there's so much that goes into the flavors and the character of a bag of coffee that it can really, really blow your mind, and it's a rabbit hole.
Yeah,
You just
you're
go
100%
down
correct.
into it.
And the thing is, I'm one of those people, man. I have the worst taste. I can't. I'm not like a sommelier or anything like that, where I can pick up. Oh, hey, yeah, I do taste that red currant or this, that, and everything else in that wine. You know what? I taste it. Yeah, I like it, or no, I don't. That's me. Yeah, hey, it's great. Oh, or they'll be like, oh, you get the chocolate notes. No, not really. But hey, it is what it is. Um, and I think with coffee, sometimes you'll get those notes. You get those great chocolate tones, or you know you'll get some fruit flavors and stuff like that. And to me, sometimes you get them, and sometimes it's just lost on me. Sometimes like, oh yeah, I really do taste that, or others. But then I love when you take that same coffee and throw it in a cold brew, and it changes it so much. It's like, wow, I can't believe that coffee that I just had as a pour over, now trying, after I made it into a cold brew, how different it tastes and how the flavors and everything you get. And so, I think coffee is definitely a great, it can change its taste according to how, you make it, prepare it, and everything else.
Oh yeah. Now, what are you roasting on now?
Um, I'm actually running on a was it Mill City Roast? It's a 2 kilogram roaster, so I'm getting roughly 4.5 pounds per roast. When I do when I go full throttle, I do have a little. Is it a B more little roaster to do, a little drum roaster to just do some samplings and stuff, just to try those out before I throw in 4 pounds or anything. Just kind of hone in and get a little sample taste and figure out flavors and profiles and everything else.
Without going into too much of your secret details of your barrel age stuff, what are you currently barrel aging, and what's your do you just like pick an alcohol that you like, a spirit that you like, and go for it, or what's your selection process? We won't go through the in-depth process of how many hours
Okay,
it sets in whatever temperature. So
okay. The first thing is, and here again, back to my bartending thing. I was a huge Woodford fan. I grew up, well, not grew up, but in the cocktail industry. Over the last probably 10 years of my bar business or restaurant and all that, I started doing lots of cocktail competitions. And one of my cocktails rated really high with Woodford. It was actually ranked number one in the Northeast region in liquor.com and some stuff. And it was actually for the Woodford Manhattan experience. Basically, it was you did a spin or a riff on a Manhattan. And so I did mine. I did it with smoke flavor. I did it. I hit it with smoke. Did some couple different little things in there, and it turned out phenomenal. Um, and it went quite well. But so from there, I knew the Woodford rep real well, and I got some promo stuff from them and started playing with that there. And then I love rum. I love a good rum. And so I picked out a rum that was one of those things, price point wise, it's a great rum. It's not well known, but it's a great rum. It's called Bregal. And one thing I really like Bregal is I was calling around and emailing liquor companies and this and that, saying, hey, this is what I'm going to look at doing. Can I use your guys' name anywhere? Well, Woodford, as long as you're using a Woodford barrel, you can use our name in the description, but you cannot put on the package, like you can't say Woodford barrel aged coffee. Now you can put in the description, and then when you put in the description, you can't use our font and this and that.
yeah.
But then I called Bregal, and Bregal was like, hey, here's our font, here's our package. You can throw everything you want on there. Call it Bergal Special Made Rum. We don't care.
That's
And
awesome.
I got that from the lawyer. So I'm like, okay, so hey, we like you guys. They sent me stuff, and then right now we're looking at playing with some scotch, and I'm still trying to find which one I really want to do. Because if you get into some scotches, they get a little pricey. Some good single barrels, some single malts and stuff like that. But we are looking at the Lefroy. The thing I like about Lefroy, it adds some. You're familiar with it?
Nope.
Okay, Lefroy. It's a really smoky, Scotch.
Like
So
super peaty.
yes, yes, it's got a lot of peat. It's probably one of the most smoky coffee or scotches out there. So I thought, doing that in a barrel aged, I thought would definitely add some nice flavors and get some good qualities out of that. Still playing out with what kind of bean I want to do. Then the other thing I'm looking at doing is some barrel aged cocktails. We're looking at doing a Manhattan, a Sazerac, and then even a Godfather, if you're familiar with that at all. That's
Mm-mm.
Scotch and Amaro together. So, got a couple things we're playing with. I just finished out a really nice one. I was on the fence about it when I first started doing it because the barrel age process took a lot longer than previous ones. But I've tried it, and all the people that I sampled on it, and a good friend of mine who's been standing by me from day one with Muddy Joe's, he absolutely loved it. It's I'm using 19 Crimes, their
Okay.
Cabernet, and I barrel aged that, and man, the flavors and notes just compared with the bean I used, it just matches up so well.
See,
And that. Go ahead.
I've had a barrel aged in a port. One of my local guys brought me a bag of that, and it was it was good, and it would have been really good. Like when I first brewed it up, I was like, wow, if I could have sit down and have a slice of cheesecake with this, it would have been perfect because it would have just that was you really needed something that fatty and that um, rich to pair with that
And,
coffee. And I think he had aged it quite a while, and he's like, I might have to go back about a week or two from what he had aged it, but it was good. Uh, I haven't had your whiskey aged and your rum aged comes highly recommended from my friends that have purchased it from you, but I've never had your whiskey barrel aged coffee.
I'll get
Uh,
you some of that. Send me your email or
yep,
send me a shipper. I'll send you a
I will.
couple. I got that Woodford. Like I said, I love it. It's a good deal. One of the guys I took on recently two new partners. And one of the guys that actually works with me now is, and you guys are friends on Facebook. His name's Richard Barr.
Yeah, yeah.
He used to be with Big Island Coffee, and he's originally from Lancaster, PA, and due to COVID and everything else, he moved back here, and they were doing a really good whiskey barrel aged coffee out there. And hey, buddy, hey, go sit down. Sorry,
There he is. Oh, you're
yeah,
good, man. You're good.
that
That's going to
that's
get viewers to
Pax.
look. That's going.
Here you go, buddy.
There he
Here you go.
is.
That's the big dog of the house right there. He's felt neglected today. But Richard, he came in and he sampled it, and he was really pleased with our product. And he mentioned that like some barrel aged whiskeys out there, and kind of like what you're talking about, that port could have done it a little too long. And so sometimes that whiskey, the first go around I ever did like barrel aged, it hit you in the face. It was like, oh my god, I'm drinking a glass of whiskey with no flavor or with no alcohol.
Yeah.
And so, I toned it down and, finally got perfected to the process how we like it. And Richard, he did a nice little write up about it and stuff. And, you know, I think that's kind of one of the cool things. Just recently we purchased a bag of is it Cooper's Cask barrel aged whiskey? I think it is.
Hmm.
Does that sound okay? And we tried ours compared to theirs. Granted, they're using a different bean than we are, but we're super similar as far as whiskey flavors. I'm not sure what they're using. Are they using a straight rye or, ours happens to be a Woodford rye. But, we're getting some really nice flavors out of it. You're picking up the notes that I want. Overall, it's great. And, it's sometimes you got to play with your roast a little bit, because I was going a little bit on the light side, and at times it was a little you got the whiskey flavor. It wasn't bad, but it was just kind of like it was missing just a little something. So then I adjusted it and I played with the roast development settings and well, not settings, but time and everything else, and adjusted the coffee. And now we're instead of being just right, we're leaning towards more of a medium dark roast, not just kind of under a dark roast, to where it's a really great cup. You get the nice coffee flavors, but then you also get the nice whiskey that you want out of it. You know,
Have you done any? And this is my squirrel moment, and we're probably just going to go off in this direction. Have you used any of the coffee, the barrel aged coffee, in any cocktails?
um, not well. I'm actually working with a couple local breweries right now. We're looking at doing a whiskey barrel aged stout,
Okay.
and then I did back when I was bartending. We did a Black Manhattan, which is basically you took your whiskey and infused it in coffee, and then let you take your coffee beans, let it sit in the whiskey for a while, and then pull it out. So I was kind of playing with like that. But one of the cold brews I'm doing right now is I've been playing with a cold brew. It's a Cuban style cold brew. You're familiar with Cuban coffee, correct? From Maya.
Yes.
Well, it's like
Oh yeah.
espresso, where it's sugar, lots of more or less super strong, high octane. Doing
Hmm.
that, but with the rum barrel aged coffee. So that's been really great. And we're looking at if they have it this year. I don't know. It may get changed again because of the whole COVID. Up in New York, there was it Coffee Fest, I believe it is. Last I saw it was still on, but now with the jump in cases, that may get postponed or delayed again
Right.
because we're looking at entering our cold brew there because it was enter your cold brew and you had to do they taste your cold brew, but then you also had to make a cocktail with it, or not a cocktail, but a coffee drink. So I'm doing a cold brew coffee, but using the barrel, basically doing a Cuban style, and we're going to do that. But I'm going to call it monkey brew. So it'll be the rum. It'll have the sugar like the Cuban style. And then I'm going to make a banana milk with it.
Okay.
So you have a little bit of banana flavor with rum, the sugar, and then we're also going to throw some banana chips on it.
That sounds interesting. That definitely does sound interesting. I've seen uh, I was looking at the I think it was espresso martini, and it was I forget what the ratio was, but it always piques my interest to do different stuff with the coffee uh, that you typically don't do. And as a roaster, when you're going to select a bean for that, when you're like, I mean, how do you start? How do you like, okay, I like I like the notes that I get from this. I think it's going to be good with a whiskey or a rum. How do you go about that?
Okay, I kind of cheat a little bit. I use because again, I tell you, I have the worst in taste. So I have a couple things I use. A, I use Richard because he's done a lot of tastings and stuff, and so he's really good at picking up notes. And then my other partner, Justin Saylor, they're both really great at picking up food notes and everything else. The other thing I do is it's called I believe it's called the Flavor Bible,
Hmm.
and it'll basically tell you what flavors go well with what. And so once I figure out what okay, I know in my Bregal, or I know in like Woodford, you're going to get some clove, you'll get this and that. And so from there, I kind of see on the spectrum of what kind of those notes really compare with. And then we look at the coffee saying, okay, traditionally, this Guatemalan has this flavor with it. It might have a little chocolate or whatever. That'll go good with that clove flavor. Or, hey, it's got some smokiness that this will pick up well with. And so it's a little bit of research, a little bit of playing. And at the end of the day, it's tasting and, having some fun and, maybe a couple of swigs of whiskey and some coffee. And, then it's like, oh, crap, what do we do? Did anybody write that down?
So I'm working on trying to get my backup here going because I just had a message on my computer that my battery's running hot. So I've got my phone on standby now. That's what I was
Okay.
doing.
No worries.
So if all of a sudden I go dark here, I have my phone as a backup and I'll be able to just pull it out and switch streams. So I apologize.
No worries.
Moving out on that. When you're looking at we'll switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
Tell everybody. So besides online with your website at muddyjoescoffee.com, right?
Yes. muddyjoescoffee.com.
Okay.
And here again, we were at a couple places locally, and then because of COVID and everything else, a lot of the stores have been kind of modified hours, or I've known several places where they were actually shut down for a month or so. And so we've kind of pulled back. We're looking at doing a coffee truck. So we're going to be building out a coffee truck and start hopefully having it ready for the springtime and do a few things there with that. And then possibly not do a full on brick and mortar, but maybe do a kind of just a walk up type stand. Basically, have one in a location where people can just walk up, get a cup of coffee, so we don't have to worry about inside stuff.
Yeah.
And then also with the truck can be mobile and go to other areas.
Oh man, if I had the money right now, I would be building a coffee or not a coffee truck. What I'd probably do a coffee truck, but I'd be building a bar truck that I could just like drive around like the ice cream man and play Margaritaville, and you would just kill it now in Texas because
back home in Wichita, Kansas. In Wichita, Kansas, there's a company called what was it? Exclusive Bartender or something like that, where all they do is like special events and this and that, but they have a booze truck. It's a truck that they take to like a food truck, they take it to special events and stuff like that, and people go up and get drinks and everything else, and it's a great time.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I don't know what the laws are here on Texas because we've got some pretty antiquated stuff on the books for different stuff. But I would imagine that is why we don't have a margarita truck that drives around in my neighborhood, 9 months out of the year. It's because it's illegal or something, which is whatever.
Well, it is what it is. Hey, Chris, why don't you find out and start one?
I wish. Yeah, I wish I had the time and opportunity to do that. I'm deeply involved in coffee right now.
Yeah, you are.
Definitely. When you're looking at expanding, so you're at tell me about the pickle place. What is it? You're at a pickle?
I was, yeah. Lancaster Pickle. I know the guy that owns Lancaster Pickle Company in the city. And this was just kind of one of those great guy. His name is Jason Ziegler. I've known him for a few years now, and he was looking at expanding his store. And he does pickles. He does everything else. He makes everything there in the shop. They've got candies. They've got this and that. And he goes, "Hey man, I've got some extra space. You want to do some coffee in there?" And I'm like, "Oh man, okay." And then things were going, and hit some stuff with COVID and everything. And then it was kind of when we first started, it was going real good, and then it dropped and up and down this that. And then Richard told me, he goes, no offense, Dave, but he goes, what the hell does coffee have to do with pickles? And I was like, I was just excited. I was like, someone wanted me to put my stuff in there. I was like, yeah, let's do it. I was like, this sounds like a great opportunity. And then the more and more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, it is what it is. It's so. We're looking at doing, like I said, the food truck. One thing about PA, and I'm not sure if it's big down in Texas. I know it's some areas that they have them, but man, the farmers markets here are crazy.
Oh yeah.
We got them all over the place. We've got the farmers markets. We got just everything on. It's like the funny thing that I found really weird though is like I live in just outside of Pennsylvania. You got Harrisburg, which is the capital. Then if you go just a little south there, there's a city called Lancaster. And then from Lancaster, you go east, and there's where I live. It's called Ephrata. It's like 10 miles away. It's more or less like a suburb type thing.
Okay.
But there's a little thing called the Green Dragon. It's a farmer's market. They're only open on Fridays. I was like, that's weird. But then there's another one called Roots. They're only open on Tuesday. And then there's a big one in the city, and it was actually voted one of the top 10 farmers markets in the country, and it's called Central Market, which they do some groovy stuff there. They've got some great coffee providers there. They've got just some really great and a lot of organic. And I live in PA here in the heart of Amish country, so it's Amish
Okay.
and Mennonite everywhere. And so we get some really cool stuff and some strange things. And man, you just see some of the most. I was kind of in shock when I moved here because of some of the food things and everything here. I'm like, oh my god, what the hell is this? But definitely
You
a
know,
learning.
there's somebody that I either saw it on a Facebook group or I engaged with them at one point in time, and one of their best selling spots was a Amish breakfast food stand, and the lady was brewing the coffee and brewing the coffee roaster's coffee and turn around and selling the bags as well, because somebody, she was selling breakfast to people on the side of the road, and they say, they get a cup of coffee and they're like, oh, this is good coffee, and she's like, boom, want a bag of coffee. So that's another idea. And I'm
Oh yeah,
really, I encourage everybody I engage with to look at every possible avenue uh, that you could possibly sell at market roasters or farmers markets, co-ops. I don't know if y'all have got them up there. The collective groups where there's a whole bunch of farmers that get together and send out the boxes to different
yeah. You sent me an
areas.
email about that. You sent me an
Yep.
email. I actually got in touch with somebody, and I'm in the process of working with them. Um, I'm also working with a couple little. There's a place called Lemon Street Market where they focus on local and organic stuff. Um, and I'm kind of on a waiting list there. As I was in there scoping out the shop, they had like 9 different coffees,
Yeah.
but like one of them's from Passenger Coffee, which I'm sure you're familiar with them. They're a big chain. Well, I don't want to say chain, but they're a big coffee roaster. Um, and then there's like 3 or 4 others that are real big name there. And so it's like, okay, yeah. And the only downside with my coffee is definitely kind of a niche,
Hmm.
with specializing in barrel aged. And so we have started pulling in some single origins, and I'm more or less working on more or less like a house signature blend where we're doing a nice little blend of Central and South America coffees, but then at the very end, throwing just a little bit of whiskey flavored coffee in there to get you just a
Okay.
hint of the whiskey. So it's still our style of coffee, but you're getting nice flavors all the way around. And with our whiskey and all our barrel aged coffees, people get I don't want to say nervous, but they get a little worried, like, oh, are you going to smell the coffee? Or, hey, I love you too, buddy. You got to give me a little space. A little space, buddy. You're going to take the show over, huh?
Yeah, he wants in on the interview.
Oh, yeah. He loves them downstairs while I'm roasting and get involved and make sure I'm not messing anything up.
This is so for those of you listening to the podcast right now, there's a giant dog on David's lap that's licking inside of his face. So I just want to describe, it's the cutest Shar-Pei Saint Bernard mix I've ever seen in my life. And
he thinks he's
definitely
the size of a Chihuahua. He thinks he's a small dog, but he's huge. And he listens pretty well at most times, but if he doesn't want to go somewhere, he's not going.
He just wants snuggles, man. It's okay.
He wants that, and he wants to go eat the cat. There's a cat upstairs that he wants to eat really bad.
That's awesome. So, no eating cats tonight. No eating cats tonight. When you're looking at your different opportunities there locally, what have you noticed as some obstacles into getting into other places besides having already 9 coffees on the shelf?
I think the biggest thing here is a lot of, and I get mixed feelings about it. Like, okay, and at my church, I was talking to them about doing coffee at our church. I was going to basically give it to them at cost. And I wasn't going to do our barrel age. I was just going to do a nice single origin for them. And one of the guys there, he took over the coffee and stuff, or helps out with that, because he did some roasting years in the past and yada yada. But they use a company called Whiffs Roaster out of Lidditz, which is another little small town. And it's like, oh yeah, we'd be more happy to sample it, but we're not changing. We know the Whiffs, and that's the thing. It's people show a lot of loyalty,
They do.
and that's groovy. Yeah, and that's groovy. I'm not against that. But if I get you a product better, as good or better, for cheaper, or for be competitive with it, wouldn't you be interested in, maybe changing? I don't say you have to, but hey, let's see what we can do. And so, like a lot of the places in town, they use. We were looking at a couple creperies here in town, stuff like that, and a couple of places where they're using Square One or Passenger coffee. And so,
Right.
it's hard to compete with Passenger coffee, because they're buying a lot bigger bulk, and so they might be getting it a little cheaper than I am, so they have a little bit more wiggle room sometimes. And that's, as a specialty roaster or small batch roaster, however you want to categorize us, sometimes that's one of the things that is a struggle at times. Is if you're not buying a huge bulk, then your price margin's not as great. And so,
Right.
But on the flip side too, that's one nice thing too, is, hey, this is a small batch coffee. This is, very specialized for you. So, there's a fine line for that.
Right. And then you run into the problem. And what I've seen in a couple of cafes that I've approached is they're like, well, we can't get anybody outside coffee because the coffee who we get, they also service our machines and they also do this. And we've got a contract with this. And so we'd love to try your coffee or try a different coffee, but we can't because you're not going to come down and fix our
You're not going
machines.
to provide us the equipment.
Right. Right.
Because like a lot of them will be like, was it Hill Brothers or whatever? They have their coffee and they have their brewers and all that, and you and I don't have the money to buy bun machines for everybody and this and that.
Right.
So it's there are some people out. Excuse me, sir. Hold on. The dog's trying to eat. He's trying to eat my daughter's headphones. Oh. Just trying to live on those now. Lay down, buddy. Lay down. You can eat my shoe. No, but and that's kind of the one hard thing, for us as a small guy trying to get into some of these markets or some of these, I'd love to, get into a coffee shop or, even a little breakfast place. Okay, a breakfast place, they got coffee going all day long.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, boom, boom, boom. So you're going to go through a bunch of coffee,
Yep.
but then it's like, oh, so gives us the equipment. Well, but it's been, at least here in my experience, a lot of the places own their own equipment. So then, you may have to service it for them or something. But again, I don't know enough about
Yeah.
some of it's easy, some of it's okay, water lines with that. But then if it gets too complicated, I don't know anything about electrical and this, that, then I'd be hiring somebody to do it. So
It's definitely an obstacle to small roasters like yourself, or somebody who's like Roasters Marketplace. That is, I won't get into the whole sales pitch of it, but we can pretty much provide you with whatever scale coffee you need at very, very, very quickly, which is kind of nice. But we've got some comments here in the chat, so let's see if we can field some stuff here. We've got Donnie from Project Buna, my unofficial co-host. He says, "What's your favorite all-time whiskey?"
Man, my favorite all time. Okay, this is gonna sound horrible. My family, my grandmother, and my mother, my stepmom, and everything else, Jack Daniels. It was a Jack Daniels thing. I love Jack Daniels. I love whiskey sours with Jack Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that sour mash. If I'm drinking it though, just like with a big old, ice cube or a single, on the rocks and like that. Woodford's always great. There's also a couple small batch that I do enjoy. Oh God, what was it? Out in Colorado, there's what is that? Can't remember the name of it now, but it's a real small batch boutique whiskey. They do some really great flavors as well. I can't remember their name. It's been a few years since I had it because Pennsylvania has some very goofy liquor laws and stuff, and it's not like, okay, a liquor store is owned by an individual. All the liquor stores are owned by the state.
Oh,
And
really?
so, yep. And so for like Woodford, for us here at Woodford in the state, Woodford has to guarantee that they'll get us X amount of cases every year. So they have enough to go to every store. So it's very, very, you know, goofy. It's just some of the stuff stuff I'm used to getting. Oh no, you can't get that here. I'm like, what? You can't get that here. What is that? You can get anywhere else in the world but Pennsylvania? I'm like, oh crap.
I was
But go ahead.
Go ahead. Nope.
No. Go ahead.
So I was talking to a roaster yesterday in New Jersey, actually, and they have now made it illegal for a roastery, or not for a roastery, never mind, a brewery, a beer brewery, to also serve coffee. Like, you can't serve coffee or roast coffee in New Jersey now, which is rather interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like why why
That
is
to
that a
me is
thing?
to me that's really weird.
We're going to go off into a tangent on the government overstepping their bounds here and turn this into a political show, but we're not going to do that. We're all about coffee and getting along and not talking about that part of
Goofiness.
everything.
The other thing I found really funny here is talking about the whole liquor thing, but one kind of groovy thing is a lot of small distilleries have popped up. So there's lots of distilleries and everything here making their own really great gins and everything else. So that's really kind of cool.
Have you looked at teaming up with them to get your coffee there?
I have worked with a couple. There's a local distillery I'm kind of in the talks with right now here in Ephrata, and then there's another one in Lancaster I'm talking to. There's a few. It's kind of sometimes you know how it is.
Yep.
Trying to talk to somebody. You want it to happen tomorrow, but sometimes it takes a little longer than that. We got
Takes a
to.
while.
Oh yeah, and in just the day and age we're in right now, everything takes a lot longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And I've been working on some stuff to automate a whole bunch of my processes. That way, I'm not saying I forget about it, but there's some things that don't happen as fast as I want them to. And so I might get off the phone with somebody and then be like, okay, I got to send them an email, but I got the velociraptor screaming and then the phone rings, or then I've got something else going on. And then that email that should have went out 5 minutes after the phone call ends up going out 48 hours after the phone call, and they miss the email. So it's, communication and coordination and all that type of stuff when it comes to expanding a business is always hard and a challenge, and not being able to do it face to face makes it even more difficult in some aspects of it. One of the things that we were looking at, I know you've got a special project with you've got the coffee. Tell me about the coffee with Rosie the Riveter on it.
oh, that is something that I started recently. It was something that I really kind of thought was kind of something. I'm very big about giving back to the community, and so we kind of started a thing called Coffee with a Purpose. So every coffee that we sell, a portion of it goes to some sort of charity. The Rosie the Riveter there one, that is actually done from an all female farms. Um, and so a portion of that, of course, we pay a little bit more for the coffee to help with the equality, because a lot of the women farmers get paid less than male
Uh-huh.
farmers, everything else. And so what we did was, yeah, we pay a little bit more, but hey, that's taken care of. Now what we do is we take a portion of every bag that we sell and we give it to a women's organization to help with equality. Um, then we have our house blend that we're working on is going to help with. We're either doing that with fundraisers, or either that or help with the homeless, and then doing some work, and it may be the whiskey flavor that we're going to do something like wounded soldiers and stuff like that. So we're trying to give back across the board and really kind of help out locally, community wise, and because at the end of the day, don't get me wrong, I'm in the business. I love making coffee, and I also enjoy trying to make a profit. But at the end of the day, too, if I'm doing well, I want to help the community do well,
Definitely.
because it's a hand in hand.
Definitely. When Now I've had it running for the whole show. I don't know if you saw the ticker there, but for those of you who are not watching, those of you who are listening later here down the road, and I'll put up in the show notes how long this code's going to last. But if you use the code Muddy10, that's MUDDY10 tonight on the website, when you order, you'll save 10% on any Muddy Joe's or Singling coffee purchase. And we'll talk offline about how long that code's going to be good for, because we do have some listeners down the road. Tell us about the tea right quick before we wrap it up.
Signaling tea, it's a project that I saw. My wife was really passionate about tea and everything, and I think at times, especially the summertime, tea and coffee kind of go hand in hand. It's another caffeine, and there again, we've got some really kind of. I've increased our teas. We got some really unusual teas. I've got a pomegranate mojito tea. So we do some fun
That
stuff.
sounds interesting. That sounds right up my alley. Actually, I'm a big mojito fan.
Yeah, it's got some mint, it's got some pomegranate in there and stuff like that. And it's great. It's refreshing. It's more of a designed to be like a iced tea. You can brew it up and then pour it over ice. It's great. Um, hell, I even tried it with a little rum in there too. It's pretty good that way too. But it's a project. Just trying to do a couple different avenues of caffeines, and just give it a shot. And it's not a great, huge seller, but the people have been buying it, love it, and so hey, it's a market.
It is, and it gives other people, I think, maybe if they're not a coffee person, you know, what I see a lot of times is um, a guy will get on and they'll order a couple bags of coffee and then they'll order some tea for their significant other, for their wife, and share that. Or I've got one, that is really popular on my website. That's a wellness blend, and that gets ordered a lot by some people as a subscription because they drink more tea in the afternoon, and it has the citrus and jasmine and
Oh
all
yeah.
kinds of different stuff in it. So it's definitely something people can look at and try out. But David, thanks for taking time tonight to
Thanks
sit
so
down
much
with.
for having me. I
Sorry
appreciate it.
about sorry about the technical difficulties when we started out. That was all on my end, and this is the second show in a row. I should have figured out that what's going on, and I need to update my laptop so I don't have these issues. But once again, tell everybody where they can find you online.
It's muddyjoescoffee.com. Quick and easy, and then of course, Roasters Marketplace. Then we're also on Facebook. Um, Facebook, right now, we're redeveloping or redoing the page a little bit, making it more user friendly and adding more of the stuff to the marketplace. Also, wanted to thank you, Chris. I didn't get to talk to you last week. Happy Veterans Day. You
Same to you,
know,
brother.
appreciate everything we've done, and appreciate the roast marketplace as well.
It actually made it balanced out. I didn't want to be totally, I already had 3 Navy guys on the show, and so I would have been definitely outnumbered. It would have been like 4-1 at that point, or 4-2. So
It's okay.
we had to we had to bolster our numbers that way. But once again, David, thanks for coming in. Thanks for tuning into the show tonight. And I'm going to drop you down into the green room and say goodbye to everybody.
No problem. I appreciate it. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching tonight. If you've stuck with us the whole show, I really, really appreciate it. Go ahead and give us a 5-star review on your favorite app. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, go ahead and do so. Please hit that subscribe button and then let us know in the comments about what you think of the show. It means a whole bunch to us, for all of our YouTube fans and Facebook viewers out there to watch the show and stay up to date with us. Those little comments, those likes, and engaging with the show is what drives YouTube and Facebook to show us to more people and get the word out about Common Grounds Podcast and Roasters Marketplace. So once again, thanks everybody for tuning in, watching, and listening down the road. We really appreciate it, and we are going to roll the show out with a little Dom Coors.